Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is Year in Review, or not really Year in Review, that's not the title of the series at all. The title of the series is Where Are They Now? A Year in Review, or something along those lines. This is where I take a look back at November of last year, November of 2020, and I check out the various games I've reviewed, the various games I've played, talking about whether their ratings have changed, not changed, all that stuff. I'm focusing first on all the games I reviewed, I covered on the channel, and then from there I go into a quick overview of some of the stuff I played, whether I'm still playing them or not. Just basically, how do things fare in this hobby where things change so quickly, dozens of new stuff come out all the time, it's all cult of the new, how are things holding up? And timestamps down below to all the sections. I generally start with things I haven't played, which is quick 5-10 seconds a piece of the games I have not played since covering them, generally because either they weren't for me and they left my collection, or because they are prototypes and I don't have them, or I'm just waiting for the retail copy to actually arrive, the Kickstarter copy to arrive. Then from there I go into reviews that have not changed since covering them, things I still own but my opinion has stayed the same. From there to games that have changed, that the review has changed in some way, the opinion has changed in some way, and finally covering a quick rapid fire of the games I played. With that, let's go ahead and start this off with the games I have not played, of which we have 6. Feed the Kraken, which is a Kickstarter game of, basically pirates and hidden teams. Actually, not that dissimilar from One Night Ultimate Werewolf in the general high-level concept it is of hidden roles, deduction, all of that. That's a game I have not played because Kickstarter, and I sent the prototype on. Then we have Shogun No Katana, another game that I have not played, another Kickstarter, solid game that I'm looking forward to finally arriving. I believe it will be coming soon, but I have not played that one. USS Freedom. USS Freedom is one that I'm still on the fence about. That is a big box. It's one that I really enjoyed the gameplay, but the table space and commitment to get it played for a campaign game puts it into that danger zone where I really like it, but also do I like it enough to pull it out, set it up, to all of that. But again, my opinion hasn't changed because I have not played it since covering it. Then we have Four Humours, which I'm really excited about because that falls under the accessibility category, where just because there are some gigantic games that I'm always excited about to play and this and that, but sometimes a smaller package gets to the table more often, and Four Humours from Adam's Apple Games very much falls in that category. Very fascinating prisoner's dilemma worker placement, a light little 30 to 45 minute experience, but really enjoyed it, lots of strategy back and forth. It's the kind of game that will get played, solid filler game. Then we have Dominations. Dominations is not a Kickstarter, but it's one that left my collection because I moved on from it. I enjoyed my plays of Domination. Dominations is one that we got in a few plays and then we just moved on from it because it was too long for the experience it provided. I really liked it. It's one that I missed it even as I was getting rid of it, but I just don't know if we'll play it practically speaking. I really enjoyed the tech tree. I really enjoyed the general gameplay. It was just a little too long for the experience it was giving us. And then Patchakuna, which was a Kickstarter. That one I did not back. Solid little abstract solid little abstract game of 2 different sides, valleys and mountains, trying to navigate your little llamas around the map. Not really llamas, but the alpacas. That's the one around the map. I think it was alpacas. Maybe it was llamas. I don't know. Either way, fun 2-player abstract game. My biggest concern was the setup to playtime wasn't worth it. That ratio was really bad. The setup was fairly long, so it ended up being 10 minutes of setup for 25 minutes of playtime. Maybe even 20 minutes of playtime. So I didn't love that, and the playtime it gave me, while enjoyable, wasn't good enough to be worth that setup or to persevere past it. But overall, enjoyed it. But also, haven't played it again. Those are just initial recaps. From there, we move on to the reviews that have not changed. There's only 2 in this category. Things that, it's not that only 2 didn't change, it's that I didn't review a ton back in November, or many of the ones that I did have left, but I do have a bunch that have changed, which we'll get to shortly. As far as the reviews that have not changed, we have Vindication and Creature Comforts. Vindication is still absolutely fantastic over here. This is a game I have continued to play since covering it. I continued to play it well before covering it. This isn't one that I got a copy and reviewed it. It's a game I had in my collection and was excited to talk about it because they had an active Kickstarter, so I used that as the incentive to table it again and then review it. Vindication is fantastic. It was and remains a 5 for me. It was my number 10 game of all time last year. I don't know where it'll land in this year's rankings, but it's definitely was a 5. It continues to remain a 5. I really enjoy Vindication. It is so much fun, so enjoyable. I haven't played with any of the expansion content. I don't feel a need to. When Chronicles shows up, I probably will. But yeah, Vindication, continuing to playing it, continuing to enjoying it. Since it's been in my collection for now just shy of 2 years, and loving every minute of it. It's a game that I need to play more. That's generally my 5s are games that I always want to play more, and I don't get them to the table enough. Then we have Creature Comforts. Creature Comforts is one that I reviewed for the Kickstarter, but I actually did get several plays of it in after. It's one that I reviewed it, then I played it again before sending it off to someone else, then I actually got it back and was able to play it again before sending it off, so it's one that I have continued to play it after reviewing it. Even like as far as 2-3 months after the initial coverage, I got games in of it. I really enjoy Creature Comforts. It's by KTVG. They are actually just finishing up their Power Plans Kickstarter. I have no idea if you can get Creature Comforts in the PM and the Pledge Manager. If you can, though, it's worth considering. The Kickstarter copy is going to be much more deluxeified than your standard retail copy, and it's a really solid family game. It's possibly the favorite one in the KTVG line for me. It's right there neck and neck with what's the other one? I can't remember. I never remember the name of it. They have the water one. They always forget. Deep something. I don't know. They have a bunch of games in the KTVG line. The one I always forget the name of is the underwater one, because I don't remember what it's called at all. Is it on the shelf here? I can't figure this out. But yeah, I really like those two quite a bit. They are my favorite in their line, and Creature Comforts is fantastic. And as far as rating, so rating is a tough one because, and I don't remember what I gave it at the time, but I remember at the time, I think I gave it a 5, but that was an incorrect rating, not in the sense that it isn't fantastic, but at the time I was rating things in terms of how good it is within the category it is. And I stopped doing that because I felt it didn't really match where I was at. Meaning, as far as a kid family game, Creature Comforts is top of the line for me, one of the best in terms of in that genre of a family accessible game. I stopped doing things in the genre, but I rather started moving more, because it's hard to do an apples to apples comparison, rather I moved after that towards just rating things the way they are. And I don't actually know if I rated that one. It might have been Core Quest, might have been the first one that I gave a rating to. Wherever it was, Creature Comforts is fantastic. For me, it would be a 4. Really, really solid. It is top of the line as far as the family, lighter family gateway genre, but as far as comparing it to other games that I love, it's not going to hold that status, so it was and remains a 4 for me. Really solid, really enjoyable, but also lighter gateway. From there we move to the reviews that have changed. Now, as usual, I say this every time, but this does not mean that it went down a full point scale at all. Sometimes the rating is exactly the same. Some of these they actually did adjust in points. Some of them they did not. Some of them are still where they are. But reviews that change to me just means that over time my opinion has developed, or it left my collection. Something happened. In some way my opinion has adjusted since last covering it. Again, does not have to be a rating change, just an opinion adjustment. And to that end, we have 5 of these, 5 games that have changed in some way. And it's worth saying, I recently did a video covering the fact that my review scale and how to do things. I'll be covering this more at some point, but this is the first time you're going to see the introduction of 0.5s in my review scales. Usually I do a 1 to 5 scale, and then just plain 1 to 5. 1s never show up in reviews because, I mean, if a game's a 1, I'm not playing it a second time, and if I'm not playing a second time, I'm not reviewing it. I'll rate them personally. I do have games that are rated a 1, but they won't show up in reviews. But past that, I'm introducing the 0.5 scale now, based on feedback and whatnot. So we're looking at a 5-point scale, which also gives us more small adjustments as far as making small changes, which you'll see over here. So to begin with, we have The Few and the Cursed. At the time, it would have been a 3.5, and it would remain a 3.5 today. This is from Rock Manor Games. The Few and the Cursed is a gameplay that I really enjoyed the gameplay. I really enjoyed the deck building. I really enjoyed the general adventuring of the game. It ran a little bit long, but I like the game. I like deck building, and it has deck building with adventure, amazing art, fun little gameplay as you pull the top 2 cards, try to figure out which one to add to your deck. Really enjoyed Fear and the Curse from Rock Manor Games, and at the time I said I really hope they have an expansion coming because I want more in this engine. I like what the engine's doing, but I want a bit more from the game. Turns out I did not keep The Few and the Cursed. Not because of the game itself. Like I said, it remained a 3.5. Nothing changed for the game. Rather, I played the Witcher adventure game, and the Witcher adventure game had a lot of similarities to The Few and the Cursed. The theme is totally different. The gameplay on a lot of levels are different, but they had general deck building. They had end-of-turn top decking, so you're like adding a card to your hand as opposed to adding a card to your discard pile. The general adventuring system as you wander around and combine the deck building with the adventuring. Lots of high-level notes that were shared. Lots of differences past that. Both of them have fighting monsters on the map and wandering around to fighting monsters, while wandering around to other zones to engage in other types of adventures or artifacts or encounters. They both had a general encounter and story system with choices you can make around them. Again, a lot of high-level similarities, and after playing The Witcher, which is a game that I loved, I really enjoyed The Witcher, I found myself looking at The Fear and the Curse and thinking, while I enjoyed you, and while I thought you added a lot, I don't see myself playing you once The Witcher arrives. And granted, I could have held on to The Few and the Cursed longer, but I'm always looking to get rid of games, so I decided to get rid of The Few and the Cursed from that. Next up, we have Wingspan. It was a 3.5, it remains a 3.5. Wingspan is a fantastic game that many love, and I have always really liked it as opposed to loving it. It's a game that I got it, I played it, I was let down because of all the hype and I got rid of it, and then I gave myself some time and I got it back into my collection, because sometimes I find that sometimes, not often, most of the time, I get rid of a lot of games. Occasionally I have second thoughts and games return. Some of those games have become my favorite games in my collection. Raja the Ganges, Everdell, Quacks of Quedlinburg. Those are all games I got rid of and got back. More often than not, when I get a game back, it ends up going away again. I'm reminded why I got rid of it in the first place, and I get rid of it again. In the case of Wingspan, I got the game originally, I got it back, I did a whole comparison with Everdell last year, which is why it's on this list, but after getting it back, we played it a few more times, and then I let it sit there, and I didn't ask for it. No one else asked for it. It is an enjoyable game, but it's an enjoyable game that no one else was trying to play. And that's the category it falls in. There's a 3.5 that wasn't being requested. It's a game that I think has high gateway accessibility. It's a really solid recommendation across the board, and I think that I am in the lower end of the spectrum of where I land on Wingspan versus Everdell, or Wingspan in general, but it's a good game. But for me, it's a good game that I'm always happy to play, but once it wasn't being asked for long enough, I decided to get rid of it. From there, we have Under Falling Skies. Under Falling Skies was, and this is sort of tricky because I'm applying the 0.5 rating, so it allows me to adjust things wherever it is. But before we get into ratings, Under Falling Skies is a game that I really enjoyed. I put it as my second favorite game from 2020 releases, but it's really, I think it was second favorite, I'm pretty sure it was. But it's a really solid game from CGE, really solid solo experience that I have continued to dive into again and again, and it has only gone up in my mental rankings. Even if it doesn't go up a point score, it has only gone up in my mental rankings. I think I probably would have put it as a 4.5. I don't remember, I don't believe I rated games back then. I think I would have put it as a 4.5, and I think it would stay a 4.5, but it's a 4.5 that has continued to solidify the more I've played it. It has not changed. I do not ever play it with two players. I only play it as a solo experience, but it's one that I really enjoy it, and it has, I guess, it's gone up a bit. I don't know why I'm putting in the reviews that changed. This probably shouldn't be in the reviews that haven't changed. I don't know if it's gone up. I think it's a game that I expected to go down, and it didn't. So it's not really that changed. It's in the wrong section here. Ignore me now. Moving to the next two that are in the right section are Lost Ruins of Arnak and Dune Imperium. Now, Lost Ruins of Arnak and Dune Imperium likely both would have been 4.5s in terms of where they were when I rated them. Lost Ruins of Arnak, though, has gone up. Lost Ruins of Arnak is definitely a 5 for me now. This is one that the more I play it, the more I enjoy it. I still have my main initial complaint, which I want more variability from the card system, but it's a game that I continue to play. It's a game that plays well at any number of player counts. Primarily 2 and 3 are best, I think. I have not played it solo. There is a solo mode as well. I probably should dive into it solo, although I don't really want to escalate how good I am at the game compared to others. I want to enjoy it with others. Lost Ruins of Arnak is fantastic. I really enjoy it. I would move it to a 5 at this point. A strong 5, easy contender. I think it's like the number 40 on Board Game Geek at this point. This is one that I actually called it. When I first played it, I was like, this game is fun, it's accessible, it's enjoyable, and it has that general wide appeal. It looks pretty, all those things. I think it's going to be in the top 100 on Board Game Geek, and sure enough, it absolutely is. Currently have an expansion coming out, which I'm more than excited for to get my hands on that one. Then we have Dune Imperium, which has gone down. Now, Lost Ruins of Arnak and Dune Imperium, both 4.5s initially. Lost Ruins of Arnak went up to a 5. It's continued to grow on me the more I played it. Dune Imperium, on the other hand, is one that has gone down to a 4. I've continued to play Dune Imperium, and I still really like it. Something about it's too much in a cycle. And again, I call this out at the review as being potentially a problem, and it has potentially been a problem. It's a reason why I played Dune Imperium less and Arnak more. Now, Dune Imperium is not in danger of going anywhere, but it has drifted down to a 4 in the sense that the more I play it, the more I see that same basic cycle of what you're doing in the game. Now, I'm sure people can say, but that's true in Lost Ruins of Arnak, and maybe it is, but I feel the deck building in Lost Ruins of Arnak really drives your strategy a lot more, because I feel the worker placement in Dune Imperium drives your strategy more, and the deck building is more secondary, which means that you're more limited to the spots on the board, and you're still stuck in that cycle of what you're doing in the game. I really enjoy Dune Imperium. It's really solid. It's a little drier for me. Now, I do want to go see the movie. I have not seen the movie yet. I've never even read the books. I started the books way back in the day and didn't pull me in. I got like 10 pages in, so it's not like I tried that hard. But I got 10 pages in and didn't continue it. I really want to watch the movie, and then I really want to read the book, and I want to see if that changes my opinion. The thematic tie-in might make it a better game for me. As it is, really solid game, but I find it a little drier than Lost Ruins of Arnak. So that's where the thematic tie-in might make it less dry. But right now, it's gone down to a 4. Which brings us to the games that I played. Games I did not review, at least not in November, but games I've been playing. There's a whole long list of these. I generally pick more highlights. So I ignore anything that I already talked about because I reviewed it, and I ignore some smaller stuff or things I talked about in recent months. I try to pick different things every month. So for that, we have Cthulhu Wars. Cthulhu Wars, when I first dived into, I think I first dived into Cthulhu Wars in November of last year. It's a game that lasted for like 7-8 months, played it a bunch of times, probably in the range of 7-8 times, and eventually moved on from it. I cover that in a Games Leaving the Collection. I like Cthulhu Wars a lot, but it's fighting in a genre of area control, which I have the best games in that genre. Like, I mean, I have some of them on the table right here. I have Inish, I have Blood Rage. Some of my favorite games are area control, and I didn't like Cthulhu Wars enough to pull that one off the shelf compared to others. We have Obsession. Obsession is one that I have played less as time goes on. I really like Obsession. I could see it leaving my collection unless Rena vetoes it. It's a solid game. I don't know what I would have ranked it. Probably a 4. I really enjoy Obsession. I really enjoy the deck building. I really enjoy the not really deck building. It has a little bit of deck building, but not really. It's like more hand management, and it has worker placement and all that. But it's very abstracted in what it does. I think it's a really solid game. I have the expansions, and I want to dive into those before making any decisions. I just find that, like Dune, it becomes a little cyclical in terms of what you're doing and doesn't really pace itself. And the theme doesn't do it for me at all. The theme, if anything, would be a turn-off. Victorian England's not my go-to. That said, I don't think it's going anywhere yet, just to be very clear. It's the kind of game that I can see a year from now, 2 years from now, eventually picking up and moving on from it. But it depends. It's a game that has been played less. And Rena, despite the fact that she likes it, Rena's my wife for context, despite the fact that Rena likes the game a lot, and so do I, we don't actually get it played. And when it's suggested in terms of do we want to play this, that, or this, often Obsession is not picked. So it's still getting played, still has been played since I covered it, since November or whatnot, but yeah, still in the middling zone. Then we have Inish. Inish continues to get played, amazing game, a little bit less frequently in terms of recent months, but I'm not worried about this one. This is stable, this is fine. It just needs to get tabled again. I think we've had a lot of opportunities to play it at 3 players, and then we pick something else because for me, Inish shines at 4. It's best at 4, and I generally want to save my plays for when we have 4, and then we don't have 4 as often, so it doesn't get picked as often. But really solid game, awesome experience, and then there's 5 players as well if you have the expansion and all that, which we do. And we played 5 players once, and we haven't played 5 players again yet, so I only have 1 play under my belt at 5. Then Blood Rage. Blood Rage just continues to be fantastic. Amazing game. I never get bored of it. I'm very excited for the fact that CMON in some way, shape, or form teased the fact that, well, they said, I don't think they teased it. They said Eric Lang is working on some sort of Blood Rage follow-up sequel, something, I don't know. There's something coming down the road for Blood Rage. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it looks like. I hope whatever they do, they keep all the monsters and everything compatible. It would really be frustrating to have, hey, here's Blood Rage Digital and a whole new monster pack, and by the way, a year and a half from now, we're completely rebooting the system. Enjoy your game. Now, knowing CMON, they probably will do a pack that you can make it all compatible. It might cost you $15, but I'll pay it for more monster variability, all of that. I just love Blood Rage enough. I am also worried, by the way, a new Blood Rage doesn't mean that it replaces the old Blood Rage. CMON in general is a company that just as often as I take their newer games and keep those, just as often I actually keep their older games. Zombicide Black Plague continues to be the Zombicide that I keep time and time again. Although things are happening. From there we move to Cockroach Poker. Cockroach Poker and One Night Ultimate Werewolf. These are both like lighter, not really party games, but filler games that I continue to play, continue to enjoy. These are ones that just they're those filler games that the night's over, the night's done, and now we have like 15 minutes left, and then we pick one of these up and play it for 45 minutes. And I know I just said 15:45. That's what happens. We're like, oh, let's get a round of Cockroach Poker, and then just call it a night. And we do that for the next 45 minutes or an hour or whatnot. Both of them are really solid games, and they are the go-to in my collection, in my game group, as far as our filler games, our filler experiences. I really do need to read the rules for Alien, because I haven't actually played Alien. I've played Daybreak, I've played Vampire. We have both of them consolidated in here, but I have not played Alien. I also have the 20 Wards one, whatever it is, the 20 Wards, One Night Ultimate Wards. I can't remember what it's called. They have a ward-based experience of this, which I have not played, that I really should play. I should learn the rules and pull it out and get it tabled. But yeah, both solid games that continue to sit at the table. Then we have Margraves of Valeria, which sadly actually left my collection. Played that one a bunch in November, continued to play it since, and it's one that it is really solid, but in the price point, not the price point, in the decision space of trying to keep or get rid of games based on having way too many good games and games continuously coming out every single year that I continue to value and continue to add to my collection, Margraves is one of those casualties. It's a great game that I'm very sad to see go, but things have to go. Space has to be made, and if I continue to find 20, 30, 40 games a year that I like, that means things have to go away or shelf space has to increase, and both of those are happening. But yeah, good games have to go, and Margraves, despite being fantastic, did go. Spirits of the Wild. Spirits of the Wild is a 2-player set collection game. Reviewed Herbaceous last year, and then people recommended Spirits of the Wild. I got that one. We have both the games still. We still have Herbaceous, we still have Spirits of the Wild, but I prefer Spirits of the Wild personally. It's a game that does get boring over time, so we have continued to play it less, but like many of these games, even though you play it less, I will still pull it out and get a table. So Spirits of the Wild is still seeing play in the Radcliffe household. And then lastly, there's one at Ultimate Werewolf. I combined these two, even though I had them in the other order. Either way, that is everything. Those are the games I played, the games I reviewed. A few changes-ish, nothing drastic as far as the changes in terms of what I covered. Again, half of the ones I covered are not back to play. Past that, from the ones that I reviewed that I kept, I think the only change in terms of, well, leaving, I guess Wingspan and Few and the Cursed are games that I reviewed and at the time was keeping, and in the past year they have since gone away. Versus the rest, Vindication, Creature Comforts, well, Creature Comforts is not here yet, but Vindication, Creature Comforts, Under Falling Skies, Lost Roots of Arnak, and Dune Imperium, all fantastic and all continue to stay. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this year in review, this Where Are They Now look back at what's going on, and as always, have a good one.